What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Art of War. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most effective ways to practice. And this is something, if you don't know about practice, it's pretty darn important, not going to lie.
If you want to get better at literally any skill in your life, you do, in fact, have to practice it before you can get good at it.
And some people, they don't want to get good. They just want to have a fun time, casual time, and that's totally okay. If you want to elevate your game, we're going to give you some tips and tricks today to kind of zone in on practice, how you can do it effectively, especially if you're a little bit crunched on time. And that is probably one of the biggest factors for you. We all have, different things going on in our lives. We have other hobbies, significant others, families. So it can get busy playing 40K.
You have things in your life other than 40K?
Well, I don't, but I was speaking.
I assume there's someone out there who does.
Someone out there.
Yeah.
I've heard that's a thing. I'm not sure, but hopefully, if you like that type of stuff, that's what you're also enjoying. But we're going to be hanging out here. I did a short very recently on this topic where I kind of condensed down a couple things into like a minute or two talking about them. So if you want to check that short out, it was on our channel about a week and a half ago. But we're going to do like a more extended discussion here and also have some different opinions because I think Jack and I also have different styles of how we enjoy practicing.
Yes, I think we're going to see that as we get into it.
For sure. So if you are joining us, please do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. All of that massively helps us grow. In addition, if you want to see more content from us, we put out tons of videos every single week, competitive battle reports, post-game analyses, theory videos. If you want to check those out, head over to either the warm.vhx.tv, where there's a 3-day free trial to test it out, or on this very YouTube channel, the membership system, bronze, silver, and gold, can get you access to a variety of our different members videos. And in addition, you get access to our awesome international Discord community. Starting up very soon, we just announced the sign-up date is our TTS League. And so if you're a member, you'll be able to sign up for that for free.
Yes, and spoiler alert, participating in events is an excellent way to get better. So.
Shocked.
Yes. So would you like to start off?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first started playing competitively, I played 3rd, 4th edition, not competitively at all. Just fun, little garage hammer, kitchen hammer type of stuff. But then in 8th edition, the second year, I came back and started playing tournaments for the first time. And people obviously had gotten a lot better since then. The competitive scene had developed. Large tournaments happened. People were playing week in, week out at RTTs and GTs and whatnot. So I came into the game with very little experience and ready to get my butt kicked. And how do I get better? It can be very demoralizing if you get into a game which has a very high skill ceiling, where there's a lot of rules to know, there's a lot of strategy and tactics and things that you need to get figured out on the tabletop, as well as very experienced veteran players who've been doing this for a long time. So for me, the main thing that I really focused on is I didn't have tons of time early on to go to tournaments. I was doing my PhD, traveling around. So I had to use my time effectively. And one of the best things I found to do was to set up game scenarios from games, set up my deployment, set up how I'm going to move in the first turn, how I'm going to try and react to whatever my opponent's doing. And I would play out the first 2-3 turns of a game, imagining what this matchup might look like from what I had known at that time. Obviously, you'll get more experience as you actually play the matchups, but you can have a general sense of, okay, I've read this online or I've seen this battle report. This probably is roughly what it looks like. Let me try and recreate it with my own army that I play. And so I do these practice scenarios before I would go to a tournament. And once I got to the tournament, at least I had a very clear idea of what I should do. Maybe my opponent throws a wrinkle into it, but I would have a very clear sense of I need to achieve these things. My units need to be in these positions. And I can at least play out a game from here. I might not win the game, but I give myself a better chance. Whereas if you show up, you're trying to play very, cerebrally, and you're like, I have never played this matchup. I have no idea what's going to go on. If you don't have a concrete game plan of at least how your army should operate, regardless of what your opponent's doing, you're going to make mistakes, big mistakes early on, and they're going to be punished.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we definitely learned very differently from each other. For sure. Because when I started out about somewhere between 13, 14 years ago. I started right at the tail end of 5th edition. And I didn't have other stuff in my life to work on, if I'm being honest with you. I didn't really. But I loved games and I loved playing, and I loved the 40k that I started. For some reason, back in 5th edition, I actually liked that game. It was a lot worse than it is now. For sure. But so the way I essentially learned was I don't get better in that sort of way where I like pre-plan and figure it out and then show up to the game. I'm a lot more of an instinctual player. I just kind of show up and I do what feels like the right plays. And I've played for long enough that it usually is the right play. I mean, obviously, you still need to plan out your game in advance. You still need to have go in with an idea. You still need to do all of that stuff. But I largely got better just by grinding games in tournaments against good players. And that, I think, is one of the most effective things to do. If you want to be better, is just go to events. Just go to events, play games against good players, make friends with people who are better than you, play them in tournament, out of tournament. And I mean, I just grinded until essentially I got better over time.
That's what you played against Mr. Nick.
Play against Mr. Nick all the time. Yes, the Northeast was a hotbed of competitive 40k at the time.
Oh yeah, a lot of great players.
So
for me, I mean, a little bit similar is once I started going to the GT level events, I started out with playing a couple RTTs, got my feet wet, was like, oh, this game is really exciting. I like this aspect of it. Because for a long time I had played StarCraft, not professionally, but I played a lot of competitive games and StarCraft was my favorite. And that is it's an online game. You're not really interacting with a person as much as you're playing against their army and what they're doing, but you're not really socially interacting as much. And tabletop wargaming is completely different. It's a very social aspect to it. So I start making friends at the RTTs. They're like, hey, join this, come to these GTs. And I'm like, great, awesome, I'll go to this. And then I ended up meeting a really great player by the name of John Lennon, if you've never heard of him. He beat my butt, really beat me down. He'd been playing for a long time, very competitively, one of the top players here in Florida for a very long time. And he slammed me the first time I played him. I was actually doing really well on 4-1 in my first GT that I played. But John is a different beast, and he wrecked me several tournaments in a row. But every time I got better, the games got closer, I learned a lot. And it took, I think, maybe 7 months or so for me to get my first win over him. But it ended up being in, I think, the quarterfinals or somewhere in the top cut of the Nova Open major. And then I ended up playing a bunch of GSC players as well. But John there, he had given me so many high-level things that I could take into my game. Seeing somebody who's a lot better than you is not a downside. It's not I'm going to lose this game. It's not a negative. I didn't take it as I'm not going to get anything value out of this game. Instead, I've took it as the opposite. I'm going to get a tremendous amount of value by playing somebody better than me because they're going to help speed up the learning curve of allowing me to see these advanced tactics and strategies and just see what better players do. We've kind of tried to do that with the War Room, with our membership videos, is try and illuminate the high-level process and the thinking and what those games look like. And playing against better players, especially top-level players, will give you those insights if you're willing to look past why you lost and actually look at the game itself. What did they do better than me consistently throughout the game? The loss doesn't actually matter because in the future, when you take those things into your own game, you're now going to be able to put up a fight against these better players. And I eventually was able to. But if I took those games as man, I'm never going to beat him. I'm getting crushed here. I probably should stop playing this game because I'm never going to be good enough. That negative mentality is one of the worst things that you could do. Take those things as positives.
Yep. I think that is a perfect segue actually there into two rules, I think, for getting better at probably anything generally, but 40K in particular, is one, you have to love it. You have to love the game. You have to have fun playing the game. If you notice that you are not having fun anymore, which I have at points, you need to take a step back and evaluate how to have fun with the hobby, right? Because you have to have fun doing it. You have to play lists you enjoy. You have to play armies you enjoy. Because otherwise, if you don't love it, you're not going to go to as many events. You're not going to play as many practice games. You're not going to be as excited to play the games. You're not going to be thinking about it as much. You're not going to be coming up with ways to fix problems. It just is going to stunt your growth. I mean, it's going to completely halt it, actually. Yeah. If you don't love 40K anymore, you just will not become better at it. And you just need to stop and try and find a way to enjoy it again. And the second one is, when you lose, you need to take responsibility for that. This is a dice game, But if every game you play is down to dice, you also will never become better. That just is what it is. You have to take responsibility for your losses. And I don't mean you have to like apologize to your opponent or apologize to yourself or whatever. You know, I understand that you can do better and you will do better, but like it's about saying I have an impact on this. At least some amount, generally most of the reason why I lost is something I could have controlled. Mm-hmm. And there's so many people who want to be better, but also want to protect their ego, which is a natural human reaction. I want to protect my ego. You want to, everyone wants to, right? But when you prioritize that, it's very easy to start writing off your games as aberrations or not real or not actually your fault or really you won but X or really this but Y, right? Or yes, I messed up, but I won anyway, so it's okay, right? Like you need to take responsibility for your losses and learn from them and improve. And if you don't, you just won't become better. That's just how it is, right? Similarly, if you think you already are as good as you need to be, that also kills it because you then will not continue being better. Like if you're like, all right, I'm already good enough. Now everything's set, right? I'm already good. Well, then everyone can get better. I can get better. You can get better. Mark can get better behind the camera. Everyone can get better. And if you say, I am already good, I'm already very good, I don't need to get better, I just need to like fine tune a couple of things and then we're set. Well, then when you lose, you're not looking for lessons anymore. And it's kind of like, what is it? It's continuing ed, basically. Yeah. Like in higher education, you need continuing education in order to stay on top of your game. And we need the same thing, right? We need to improve because we're gaining and losing skills all the time. Yeah. So that's my thought, is that there's many ways for you to disqualify yourself from becoming better, and you want to avoid those. Yeah.
A huge part of that is setting realistic goals for yourself. Mm-hmm. Like if you were going into a tournament and you haven't set your goal, you can often, for example, if you go into a tournament and you set 3-2 as a goal, I just want to have a winning record. That's a very reasonable goal. That is a goal if you've been playing for a decent amount of time and you have a good amount of experience. That should be something that you should be able to achieve. You might end up going 2-3 in certain circumstances, or maybe you played a really tough matchup in the last one, but you had that realistic goal. You're like, I was very close to it. Next event, I'm going to shoot for it. I'm going to practice even harder and get there. But if you go into an event and like, hey, I won my last couple RTTs, this is my first GT, I'm going to go 5-0, I'm going to win this event. You got to align your goals with what is realistic. It is very hard to win events. There's a lot of really good players. The game is so much more competitive than it ever was before, in my opinion. There's just more people playing regularly, whether on TTS or in practice. There's more events. The events are bigger than ever. There's a lot of really competitive, great players, and one person wins an event. Going in, even like for Jack and I, even going into like any major event, our expectation is usually not, I'm going to win this event. It is ideally we make the top cut and we get to fight for the win.
Yep. I've established a rule for myself, which is if I would only enjoy an event if I win it, I don't go. Yep. Because that is a way to want to die. If you set concrete, like I want to go X and X, right, at an event. I want to go 3-2. I want to go 4-1. I want to go 5-0. You're just going to be sad some amount of the time because there is variance in games. There's a lot of luck to the output. You can put a bunch of skill in, but like matchup or table or turn order or my opponent was just more on their game today than I was, can really impact whether or not you go 2-3 or 3-2. And getting really attached to a particular number, sometimes you'll hit it and you'll feel good, and sometimes you won't, you'll feel bad. And usually we feel worse when we don't hit it than we do feel good when we do hit it. And on balance, that can kill your enjoyment. There is, as Richard was saying, no such thing as people talk like, oh, I'm a 3-2 player, I'm a 4-1 player, I'm a 2-3 player or whatever. But there's no such thing as a 5-0, 6-0 player. That doesn't exist. Nope. Because you just can't consistently win GTs. It doesn't matter, right? Unless you are going to GTs where you severely outclass every single person there. And even then, You just can't consistently win events. You can go to enough events that you will consistently be a winner at some point, but there's no such thing as a consistent 6-0 player. That doesn't exist.
Exactly. I want to bring up one of the points you made a little bit earlier, which was about playing a list that you enjoy, or at least an army that you enjoy. And for me, back in 8th edition, when I won the first LVO with the Iron Hands build, the old classic Breviathan,
Evil.
that tournament I never really think about because I did not enjoy that experience whatsoever. Not only was the mirror matchup on the table for multiple rounds, but 0% of my opponents enjoyed playing against the list because it was just treacherously broken. And then I was not playing an army that I really loved. I was playing an Iron Hands list that had my beautiful Blood Angel models as the models. I don't care at all about Iron Hands. And I didn't get to play, I wasn't getting to play Blood Angels, and I wasn't getting to play any of my other favorites. Like I wasn't playing Tau, I wasn't playing Admech. I wasn't playing an army that I truly loved. And so that, even though I won that tournament, not only do I not think about it, but for many months after, I just kind of lost my passion for the game. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to travel to events. I didn't want to play events because even though I ended up winning that event, the win didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel memorable. All that mattered was that I didn't enjoy the experience. And that mattered a lot more for me not playing tournaments than the fact that I had a win.
Yeah.
And sure. I think this can be true of a lot of people. Like right now, it's very easy to say, I'm going to grab or I'm going to borrow, 5 Catan. I'm going to put it on the table. And I'm going to go to this event, and it's going to give me a very good shot to win it. All I have to do is not even outplay people, but outroll people in certain games. and you can win a game. And that, I'll tell you, is not going to be as satisfying as you think. Even if you do win that event, this might burn out some of your passion for playing. Not only that, but you also don't really have that friendly relationship or that rapport with the opponents that I typically really enjoy about Warhammer.
I will say, some people do enjoy 5 Catan, right? Some people are sickos, all right? It is what it is, right? We all get our enjoyment in different ways. If you love 5 Catan, if you love playing that army, you love putting it on the table, then by all means,
and if you don't like friends,
right? Now, do I think that you are a sad little man and I pity you? Yeah, sure, maybe. But the point is, you best, and you should play a list that you enjoy, right? If you love your Blood Angels, for example, right, as Richard was saying, but you feel like you need to play Ultramarines right now, but you don't enjoy Ultramarines, then don't do that, right? Don't play Ultramarines then, whatever. You can still win events with basically any army in the game at this point, except agents. We don't really talk about them.
If you are good enough with an army, you can outplay people.
Yes, for sure. And the meta's close enough to here where you're really not going to be disqualified winning games. Are there some armies that are better than others? Absolutely. But you should just play the version of the list that you enjoy the most. Now, some amount of your enjoyment is going to be based off of whether you feel like you're completely helpless in a game or not. Right? I'm not going to be playing, Sisters of Silence Detachment, right? I don't personally enjoy Custodes right now, so I don't play them, right? But you should play the army you enjoy. And if that army you enjoy is cancerous, then pop off King, I guess. But if the version, you don't have to play the cancer version. You don't have to play 5 Catan unless you enjoy 5 Catan. Just, tune it to yourself.
Yeah, a 4-1 with your favorite army with a really enjoyable list is going to be a lot more memorable and enjoyable than the 5-0 with an army you despise.
Yep, and you'll get better in the future. Yeah. You don't want to play the army you hate, do well with it, which generally is not what happens. Generally, you'll do worse than you would with an army you like. And then you just won't get better after that experience because you didn't enjoy it very much, and you won't think about your games as much, and you won't go over your... It's a whole compounding effect of really enjoying what you're doing and getting into it 100%. If you don't have that, you're probably not going to be getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would say another thing we mentioned and kind of touched around it, like the psychology, the mentality of Warhammer. Part of the game is psychological. It's a mental game as well. There's some fortitude with playing like a 3 or 4 hour round against somebody and thinking about high level decisions. But I would say probably most people don't think about the physical aspect of Warhammer. Wearing comfortable shoes, having like really nice meals beforehand that are lighter, not tons of greasy food or fast food that's going to make your stomach upset, make it so that you are feeling ill during a game. I would say these like small physical, nutrition, health related things are actually a pretty sizable deal when you start playing tournaments that are 2-3 days, because those compounding effects of potentially having maybe less sleep, significantly less sleep. You go out drinking,
huge, yeah,
and you don't end up, you sleep for 3-4 hours. Yeah, even if you have practiced the heck out of your army, you're playing a top tier army, you still might not be favored into somebody who has had a better night of rest, had better meals, better, healthy choices. And I've seen this at tournaments a lot, where somebody who goes in like really, really confident, but ends up, doing a little too much of the, external factors at an event, ends up underperforming. And I'm like, this really does matter a lot, especially as I'm getting older. Some other people are getting older too.
We're not as young as we used to be. I started at 18. I'm now 31.
You got to put the time into the other sides of Warhammer. And just like in chess or some of these other strategic games, the physicality of it is often undervalued, but is an important aspect. And it often makes incremental differences.
Yep. I think going to events is a big... It's a big deal for getting better. I think going to events and playing games where, I'm not going to say there are stakes to the game, because that kind of overvalues how important it is to like win individual games at a tournament. Mm-hmm. But there's something on the line, right? And your opponent is trying their best and you are trying your best. And in order to beat them, you have to do a certain amount of good. You just have to. You can't skate by on messing this up or that up. You like have to do better if you want to keep doing better, right? That's why playing against good opponents is so good. It's because it is a test. It's a test that if you want to pass, you have to get the answers right. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, that's okay. We're going to go back, we're going to study the text, and we're going to come back and we're going to try the test again. And you have to get the answers right. You can't skate by, right? If you're playing a very good opponent at your local RTT or GT or someone, or just someone who's better than you, you have to be better to win that game. You have to be better than you were when you started out in order to win that game. And by setting that like very concrete test of, no, I'm sorry, you won't beat this person unless you play better than them. By setting that concrete goal, it gives you the necessity to improve, basically. So that's why I really like going to events. It's why I really like playing good opponents at events, because you can't just skate by. In a practice game, it's like, whatever, who cares if I lose this game? Or I'm just going to reset that. I messed that up or whatever, right? Sorry, in a tournament, there's some leeway there. Like there's some playing by intent and whatnot. But generally, if you make a boneheaded play in a tournament, you will lose that game because of it. And that's fine. Like, that's okay. You can lose. That's a gift, kind of. It never feels that way, but it kind of is. Because next time you will be better. And it's never about this event. It's always about the subsequent ones.
Absolutely. So in terms of playing the games, one of the things, I coach a decent amount of people through Art of War. One of the things I really emphasize is making sure that you either take pictures of the game or you at least have some recording of it. I always like using the Tabletop Battle app or some sort of equivalent where you have a full record of when the points were scored, what the primary difference was, what the secondaries were scored, so that you can go back and reanalyze this game with a bit more depth afterwards. Because oftentimes, even in games that you win, there's plenty of mistakes on both sides for people to learn from. And so if you want to make the difference, like the leap from getting 3-2 to 4-1 consistently, being able to thoroughly analyze your games, look at the not only large macro decisions that could have been done different, deployment, how you move your models, how you attack your opponent's side of the board, but also small tactical things like playing around heroic interventions, how you pile and consolidate, all that stuff. These type of things, being able to really thoroughly analyze a game will matter a lot for improving incremental improvements. It gets the difference between going from like a 0 and 5 player or a 1 and 4 player to going to the 3-2 or 4-1 bracket is a pretty sizable difference. But then going from 3-2 to 4-1, sometimes you're very close to that, but it's going to take a lot of incremental. It'll seem like small changes, but they'll matter a lot because they'll add up.
Yep.
This is what matters here, is being able to really thoroughly analyze a game without emotion. And you can either record the game, take pictures of the different turns. That's what I do. The 40k battle app has that little notification where it reminds you to take pictures at the start of each battle round, just so you can go back in a very thorough manner and look at the positioning and how the game played out. I think that helps a lot.
Yep. Something big about 40k that's different from other kind of hobbies is that because games take so long, and because you can only play in person or over TTS, which is a client that, well, it doesn't have a ladder, right? So there is no ladder system. There is no ranked system. There is ELO, but there's no like MMR, right? There's no matchmaking. And so what that means is you might go into an event, and if you play League, I don't remember the ranks anymore, but like you might play against, a diamond, you might play against, thank you, Mark. You might play against, like bronze, you might play against gold, you might play against silver, and then you might play against challenger, right? You might play against an entire wider range of skills. You might, play against someone who's only ever played at their local store. And in the following round, you might play someone who's traveled internationally, go to events. And that just doesn't exist in other games. And it makes it feel like you're not improving as much, because those incremental gains are very hard to see when you're, playing a top 100 ranked player and then a bottom 100 ranked player in the same event. And so it's just give yourself a little grace on that. But I think the number one thing is you just need to get time playing games under live fire sort of scenarios. I personally just think if you want to get better, just find every tournament in arm's reach and go to it, basically, as long as you're still enjoying it. Right. My other hobby is jiu-jitsu, and doing that, basically the only way to be good is to get mat time. You just have to get time on the mat, sparring with people, and that's the only way to get better. You can drill, you can train, but you're not going to get better unless you get actual, honest to goodness mat time in there, training with people, trying their best to beat you. And I think it's the same for basically anything. Any hobby you want to do, you have to go out there and you have to put in the time and progress.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think this was a really good synopsis of a lot of the different things that will help elevate your game, different things to think about, different things to put into practice. Do you have anything else before we dive into some of the super chats and you members' questions?
No, I think we can awesome. Hop right into that.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed our kind of spielin, talking about the different things that we've learned over the past many years. And if you have any questions about this, definitely let us know. We'd love to follow up with you in the comments, or if you have other tips that have helped you kind of get better. I think a lot of people reading the comments will enjoy reading that and learning from you.
Yep. Oh, I will add that I think that I like to think of ourselves as an excellent resource. We are not a replacement for games. If you want to get better, we are not a replacement for going to events and practicing. What we are is an excellent, I think, aid to that. Mm-hmm. If you go to an event and you play games there and you come back and you watch, instructionals, basically, if you want to, you watch our games and you say, oh, I could have used that, or you watch our videos, about strategy and tactics, and then you attempt to implement it in your next game. It's a great synergy, not a replacement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You got to play games of Warhammer, because you will make mistakes that we're not going to make in our stream games, and you have to learn from those ones.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive into these chats here. If you are joining us, please do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. All of that massively helps us grow. In addition, if you want to check out those games and theory videos and strategy and tactic things, I do a Know Thy Enemy every week on kind of like top level detachments, everything you need to know. And then the part 2 focuses on how to play against them on the tabletop and what they're trying to achieve and how to shut that down. So check out The Worm at theworm.vhx.tv. There's a 3-day free trial. And on top of that, you get access to our awesome international Discord community. And if you prefer YouTube, you can simply sign up here on our membership system. There is a bronze, silver, and gold tier. The gold is equivalent of our website, where you get every video.
All right, let's dive into these super chats.
Let's do it.
So first up, we got I'm Too Random, GHGH, with a $10 super chat. Is playing with stronger/weaker, melee or range, honest or tricky, etc. armies generally more beneficial for developing skill? Does it matter? Be interested for your opinion on that.
Do the tricky combat armies help?
What kinds of armies are better than others, right? Does it matter whether you play a stronger or weaker army? Does it matter if you play a melee or ranged army? Does it matter if you play an honest or tricky army?
I think what matters the most is how many tools your army has available. I think if the more that you play an army that is monodimensional or has only really one way to win a game, often by making sure, basically accepting that your opponent probably doesn't have the tools to deal with it, like 5 Catan is a great example. Some armies just simply don't have the tools, or 5 Imperial Knights that step on the objectives. Some armies simply can't deal with that. The more you play an army like that, the less that you will learn each game, because those archetypes try and force the game into this game is all about dice and whether you built a list that could kill this. That is where you're not going to learn as much on the tabletop. But as soon as you play an army, even if it is Imperial Knights, but you play, like 2 or 3 bigs and then some amount of small stuff and Imperial Asian allies, you will still learn more things about how to contest objectives properly, how to stage on your opponent, how to trade units and make sure that you're in a winning position, making sure that you're set up to score all the various cards and points that you could potentially score. So the more tools and different units you have in an archetype, in a list, the more you will learn. So whether that is with like a super fast janky army like Aldari, where they have non-interactive units, or like Admech, where you have like tons of cheap skirmish units and can keep trading against objectives, or whether that's more like Tau, you have a bunch of big guns, you're mostly a shooting army, but then you also happen to have a lot of skirmish pieces and like Breachers and Devilfish or Piranhas and whatnot. The more mixed an army is, the more you will learn. So that's what I would say, is that in your intentional list design phase, you should try and build as many different types of tools into the list, because those will challenge you to think about them in different ways throughout the game. That's what I would say.
Yeah, if your army has one thing it does, right? The 5 big knights, it's very simple. You put a lancer on the center, and you put the rest of your knights so that anything that hits that lancer gets hit by the rest of your army. You stick every objective in arm's reach, and then when they hit the lancer, you hit them like a stack of bricks. That's all you do. You just do that on repeat over and over and over again, and you win or you lose. You're not going to get very much from that experience. The number one like trap army that traps people in its orbit is like 2 Catan, the Silent King, a Tesseract Vault, and a Doom Scythe, right? I've seen lists that are some variation on that all over the place. And it traps people in its orbit because it will artificially increase your win rate, right? That sort of a list just plays its game over and over and over again. It's like Burn almost for Magic, right? Where you just do your game plan, very linear. You just do it, and your opponent has all the agency, and they either win or they don't. But it's powerful. It's a very powerful linear strategy. So that sort of Necron list or that sort of Knights list will probably, at least at first, give you a high to your win rate. But the drug analogy will continue. But the problem is that as soon as you move off of that, your win rate will go down, but you feel like you're a really good player because your win rate is high.
Yeah.
And so you don't want that to happen. So you don't want your win rate to drop off. So you never leave that army, and you eventually just completely atrophy as a player. And I've seen it happen. It sucks.
Even worse is that eventually that archetype might get nerfed, and then you look for that archetype somewhere else to achieve the same type of results, never really expanding your repertoire as a player.
Jumping between like that Necron list to 5 bigs to, I don't know, predicting a future meta.
3 Storm Surges.
3 Morkanauts, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, something crazy.
Triple Storm Surge. Something where you don't have to think about the micro. You just have a linear game plan and you attempt to execute it. I personally think that will hurt your growth. But as long as you enjoy your army and it isn't exactly that, I think it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah. You'll be invested, and like melee or shooting, you can find skill in both of those.
Yep. So like you can play aggro for the people making the Magic analogy or continuing the Magic analogy. You can play aggro, you can play control, you can play mid range, but like burn, just like pure burn where you just divide your mana by damage to your opponent, probably don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of nuance to burn. Burn fans, don't come after me, please. Don't throw lightning bolts 3 damage at a time at my face.
Leave a comment for Jack about his burn decks.
Yeah. So I played mono red. Okay. But like mono red is like aggro is fine. But like pure, I'm just going to do this one thing over and over and over and over, and it's up to my opponent whether they win or lose. You probably want to avoid that.
Yeah. And like I said, it's when armies are trying to force the game into a dice game. Do you have enough volume? Can I make enough saves against this? It's not. It becomes less and less skill oriented, and that's just not enjoyable for usually both players.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have fun with it. Some people do though. Some people just love putting their big boys on the line and running them forward and seeing what happens. You will not get as good, but if that's what you want, then pop off. Like seriously.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Red Rum. It says, I also play by a lot of instinct, and sometimes when I'm doing well, I even achieve ultra instinct and go full Super Saiyan. Love team prep though. Yeah, team prep is basically the most, like the lead up to a team event is the most fun part of team events.
And it's also like we talked about practicing for singles here. Team prep requires a whole different set of skills in how you matrix, in how you think about a team composition, in how you get everybody's mentality in the right place and make sure that their scores are aligning with what they should be. There's a lot of layers to teams, so it takes the complexity of singles Warhammer and amps it up by 100.
Yep. All right, next we have Red Rum again, member for 37 months in the War Room Gold.
Thank you so much, Red Rum.
Thank you so much. Is there a limit on how good you can get based on how strong your army is? I went from Custodians to World Eaters end of 2024, and I had to relearn the game from the start, and still after being a year on World Eaters, I still have to outplay to win. I would say that sure, there probably is an advantage to learning if you have to do better, right? If you artificially put training weights on yourself, you probably will be better. But I think it's dramatically outweighed by your enjoyment of the army. And if you only play agents, you probably will get better if you enjoy it than someone who doesn't. But enjoying it is going to be difficult. It's going to be tough. You're going to hate it. And so I would just play. I think it's going to be much more outweighed by, do you like the army or not?
See, what I think is that I think the Games Workshop employees who designed the AdMech Codex for 10th edition, they should have had to play that at multiple events and it got that experience. They would have become dramatically better players by playing that. And then they would have come back and hopefully in the future not write those type of rules.
Well, I wouldn't wish playing the Custodes Codex on release on my worst enemy. So there's that.
Yeah. So like some armies are artificially, just due to the rules that were given to them, they struggle in certain scenarios, or they're hard because they're an elite army where every single decision matters a lot, where if you misplace like a single, like you play a custodian, a warden brick with a character and it fails the charge in front of your opponent because you didn't rapid ingress or whatever, and all of a sudden you now lose this resource you didn't expect. It's a massive swing for the army. Whereas you throw away, like 5 Swooping Hawks contest an objective, they end up not killing the thing on the objective, but it's fine, they lose the points. It's not a big deal. These things can matter a lot depending on what type of army you go for. But I would say for the most part, most armies you will find some sort of skill expression if you really look for it.
Yep. It's there for sure. All right, Ricky67 with a $10 super chat says, I'm planning on slowing down on 40k after CTC next month because I'm a little burnt out and poor. What are the things besides competing and community keeps you in the game? Keep strong kings. Thanks so much, I would say the community is like the single biggest reason I stay in the game. But other than that,
lore is one. Like I genuinely enjoy the lore of AdMech. So I've recently been rereading the call books, just because I'm obsessed with the faction. I like everything about it. So maybe reading some of the books, some of the novels, some of the narrative campaigns. If you have a very diverse 40k friend group, you could look at doing like Crusade or Narrative or some of the other less competitive forms of 40k where you still get to enjoy your models. Obviously, everybody puts a decent amount of work into building and painting up their army, so it can feel like, ooh, this is special. This is something I uniquely did and created. Being able to still play it, although not in a competitive atmosphere, will give you other benefits. So maybe you just take a little bit off. Maybe instead of going to Worlds, for instance, for a competitive player, maybe a year they play the Grand Narrative instead and play a more fluffy version where they get, like a Highlander list of one of each type of unit.
Yep. And I think we'll touch on that with the next question. Because I'm Too Random again says, how do you avoid stagnating, getting reps without improving? And I think something like that, which is taking a step back and finding an alternate way to enjoy the hobby is a good way to do that if you're finding your enjoyment slowing down. But if you're still enjoying it, I would just keep grinding, honestly. If you're still enjoying the hobby, you're still enjoying the game, or you still get that moment mid-game. Every so often, I just get a feeling when I'm looking at the board, and I'm just like, man, I really love this game. This game's sick. Yeah. As long as you're still getting that, then just keep grinding, and you'll break through eventually, as long as you keep getting the games, and you analyze the games afterwards with an idea of, I could have done something better. Regardless of luck, regardless of any of that. Sometimes you will lose because, got diced. That sucks. But even in those games, you could have done something better, and you need to try and find that.
I think generally it's really good advice to, especially if you're trying to improve, play the same list or a similar list over multiple events, over multiple games, 5, 6, 7 games. Really understand that list concept and that archetype really well. But I think if you start feeling a little burnt out, a little bored, or some sort of emotion like that, you could change it up and maybe even change it dramatically. Like maybe I get really bored of Skitarii Hunter Cohort AdMech, just bodies everywhere. It's taking a lot of time to play the games. I always have to try and outthink my opponent. All right, I'm just going to play the Datasom Conclave. I'm going to put a Fight First robot unit in here, and I'm just going to have a fun time in an event. Something like that to cleanse your palate could go a long way to reinvigorating your enjoyment of the game.
For sure. All right, and finally here we have Craydon42, member for 15 months at the War Room Gold. Thank you for being here. If you have competitive friends and non, do you recommend staying with your main army for both and maybe not trying non-comp things with your friends, or having fun side armies for them? You probably do want to have some kind of a side army or a fun army or something. I will tell you that if you're looking to get better, and you are getting better and you're playing with your competitive friends, is going to hurt your enjoyment when you play with your non-competitive friends. It just kind of is what it is. I love this game, but I can't really play non-competitive games anymore. Like against people who don't really know what they're doing to the same extent, or like people who just have played like 2 games or whatever. I'm not going to enjoy that game as much. And it just is a fact of life. I enjoyed this aspect of it enough that I wanted to put myself into that. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do it, but it did come at a cost, which is I can't do that kind of game anymore, unfortunately. Yeah.
When I went to, I think this was the second time a Worlds happened, so it wasn't WCW, but the first time it happened was like a 4-person invitational. The second time it happened was an 12-person invitational, the one in New Mexico.
Oh, yeah, it was like 16.
Like 16 people. So 16 people got invited to play the first or one of the early versions of what a Worlds would look like for 40K. And that was happening simultaneously the first year that the Grand Narrative was happening, which is this huge narrative event. There's themed rooms, there's snow room, jungle room, really cool. And the 40K version was double elimination. This is the event I was paid to play Crimson Fist, one of the worst armies in the game at the time.
It was quite bad.
It was quite bad, and my list wasn't good. It wasn't good. So I played the first round. I had to play against John, and he wrecked me. And then the second round, I played against Ben Sherwin's Demons. He also beat me, but the game was closer. And so I got knocked out, and I went in knowing that this was going to happen, very likely. But I got invited to play in the Grand Narrative. And so by this point, in the Crusade campaigns, you build up a lot of relics and all this cool stuff. And so they jammed me in for the final round, and they were like, you're going to join the Imperium, which is struggling right now. We're going to put you against one of the top, Xenos lists, which is an Aldari army. And it was a pretty solid competitive Aldari list archetype at that time. And I went in with my fluffy Crimson Fists, and we had a great game playing back and forth. And, going in, I knew that, yes, I'm going to use all these wacky, zany Crusade rules. But at the same time, it still felt like playing 40K, but the older style of 40K, where there was effectively one objective that mattered. You're mostly trying to kill your opponent. You're not worried about scoring or doing secondaries or anything like that. And we just had a great time rolling dice and having a great time. Maybe a palate cleanse like that every once in a while, but in a setting that is more narratively focused. Like the terrain was gorgeous. There was all this atmosphere. There were different people walking around who were dressed as certain characters. Maybe the at your store casual game isn't going to be that fun or incentivizing, but maybe something like this where it's a specifically themed event could be a palate cleanse for playing competitively.
And I want to say that I think it's still important to have the sort of thing where you like the sort of games where you mess around and just have a good time. I just find that in other games.
Yeah,
I
that's
used to
totally
play
fine.
Warhammer Fantasy. That was my mess aroundy. Like, I'm just going to put my little elf men on the table and run them around sort of army sort of game. Now I play various card games or video games or,
You've got these other outlets.
there's other outlets for that. But it is harder as you become better to like take enjoyment from just pushing 40k models around the board. So sometimes you just have to play other games that let you push those models around the board.
Yeah, because
right?
for like us playing 40k, it's kind of like chess, where like these IMs, the grandmasters, etc. The enjoyment of the game is not really the game itself as much as the outthinking the opponent, coming up with strategies that are new and refreshing. Like that mental aspect of the game is really rewarding and exciting and fun for us. And the more that you play, the more competitive you get, the more that challenge is exciting. But you won't find that in the casual games.
Yep, I've played a billion games, right? I playing a casual game where I take my fluffy army and turn off the brain and just push it around. Not really going to happen, right? Like that's you can't help but see, hey, if I charge here and pile in here and do this, and I can intentionally not to do those things. But I just won't have fun doing it, so I don't, and I just find other outlets for the fun. I want to mess around. Like me and the boys have been hopping on Overwatch and just sprinting at people with Tracer, finding other ways to.
Tons of fun board games right now. Like
tons of fun board games.
There's outlets out there if you want a social setting as well. Yeah. Any other?
We have Cloud Runner. Welcome to the War Room Silver, but no super chat.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. If you like these type of live streams where we kind of give you some context for us as players and also share our knowledge with you as like how we developed as players, how you should think about practicing, for instance, but there's plenty of other topics like this. Let us know if you enjoy these type of live streams. And if so, if there's other things you want us to talk about, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. All of that massively helps us grow. In addition, if you want to see more content from us, some of the theory videos we've mentioned, the competitive battle reports where we're playing and making these high-level decisions, check out The Worm at theworm.vhx.tv with that 3-day free trial, or here on YouTube with the member system, Bronze, Silver, and Gold. And with either of them, you get access to our international Discord community where Jack and I are hanging out talking 40K nonstop. But there's thousands of other members who are doing the same in all the faction channels. So it's a great place to make new friends, whether playing in real life or on TTS. And our TTS League is going to be starting soon. So if that's something you're excited about, if you're a member, you'll be able to sign up for free. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this one. And we will see you all very soon for more content. So long for now.